So welcome to another episode of Commercial Real Estate Uncovered. I've got Manny Kess with me today, where we're actually not going to go too much into real estate stuff just because of how I met you, but I thought you'd be a great guest to come on and kind of talk about all things Vegas, and I liked your story just because I met you in politics. So thanks for making some time to come hang out with me this Wednesday morning.
Thanks for having me.
Manny was like, why are we doing this in the morning? Just because you have a nightlife background. You're more of a late night guy.
Exactly.
So one of the cool reasons I wanted to have you on was the first time I met you, you were running for Secretary of State. Is that correct?
State Treasurer.
State Treasurer. I'm
Yes.
sorry, I'm getting this. But State Treasurer, so I came to one of your events. It was at Resort World. It was a fundraiser. And I walked in and let me back up here a little bit. But when you go to these political fundraisers, usually it's not filled with the most like exciting people. There's donors and just other candidates there. And in the political world is really different than like your flashy strip world. And you were having a fundraiser at Resorts World. And I walked in and I'm like, there's like a mix of like trendy, there were people that are like just trendy with designer wear and like some big guys and some very attractive women running around. And then there were some, your more political group, a little more wompy. Their clothes aren't quite the designer stuff. And then I'm like, oh my God, there's NFL guys here. Like, how is this guy able to get like these athletes here? And a lot of times at these events, you might have one athlete who shows up or a celebrity who just happens to be friends with somebody. But I wanted to go into how you were able to pull that off and go into your story a little bit. Of how you got to know this circle, and I understand you're in hospitality, but how did you get started in the hospitality world?
Well, that's a loaded question. I used to own a restaurant in New York, and after the '08 economic collapse, I ended up losing that restaurant. And in 2010, I had a dilemma: start over again or start something new. And one of my buddies had moved from New York, which is where I was born and raised, to Vegas. So he basically solicited me. He's like, hey, man, you should come out here. The city's growing. It's incredible. And we're looking for people that have that New York mentality, that hard out exterior, tough work ethic to come out here because it's very easy to succeed. So I'm like, you know what? All right, let's give it a shot. I'm down for an adventure. So I moved out here and I started working in hospitality. My first job in Vegas was actually at a pool, Wet Republic at the MGM.
Okay.
Because my buddy's company, they managed it. So that was my foray into hospitality outside of owning restaurants, being in restaurants. And when you're in hospitality, you're out every day and night. You're meeting people, you're growing your network, your book of business. So that's kind of how I started. I was just working at a pool all day and then going out every night, just meeting people. And from owning my restaurant in New York, I had certain corporate clients. I did a lot of catering. I had met some athletes over the years. So I just kind of put everyone together. And I was like, hey, man, this is what I'm doing now. I'm in Vegas. If you ever come out, give me a call. Would love to take care of you or your friends. And you start off with one person, you get two, you get four, and then just it grows. And if you do a good job, people refer you. So that's how I started in this business.
And we'll go into. So you were a VIP host then, is how it started. Mm-hmm. Okay. And in New York, where in New York was your restaurant at?
In Midtown. It's actually a block away from the Trump Tower. So it was on 56th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.
Oh, so you were like in the city, not right. Even, okay, that's people say New York. Sometimes it's not really New York.
Yeah, I wasn't upstate I was in Manhattan.
And you're born and raised in New York?
Yes, in Queens.
So you, from Queens. So you came, I only know New York from like being a tourist. I go there and stay. Go and stay in Manhattan and do the Statue of Liberty tours. But there is so much that goes on in that city. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. You go from one little section to another. They're like different planets. I've traveled a lot and still like every time I go to New York, you discover something new. But so you moved out here to Las Vegas in about 2011, you said? Yep. Okay. And you have the Kess Group, which is your company, and you guys are a hospitality company that do events for you guys do stuff in the casino and outside of the casino?
Yeah, it's a full service concierge company. So people contact us, they're telling us when they're coming here and we set up their itinerary. It can be from one person to 5,000. We do individual groups all the way up to big corporate events. So whatever that client wants, we facilitate. What
is one of the most like outlandish like requests or like let's call it baller kind of events you've put on? Have you ever had somebody just where with a request you're like, I've never done this, but it'll be cool if we can pull it off?
I mean, we've done a lot of crazy stuff. I mean, baller. I've had some Saudi royalty that came in and they wanted 40 rooms at the Wynn, and they just had this very extravagant, high-end trip where it was every night shows, the best tickets possible. They want to go to the best restaurants. And usually it's easy for 4 or 6 people. But when you have 40 people, it's a little bit harder to book things and get VIP for that big of a group. So that's one of those kind of, man, we're going to do the best that we can and hope it works out. And it was a very expensive bill at the end of the trip. But then we've also had corporate buyouts where for SEMA, we worked with a car company. We did a buyout of Dre's that did a big event. I used to love Hyde because Hyde had the sweet spot. It was one of those venues where if you had 300 people, they can make the room look small. And if you had 900 people, it was big. So we did a lot of corporate events when Hyde used to be open. So that was one of my go-tos up until it closed. So there's a lot of things that we've done. I mean, like I said, I've taken care of 2 people that had crazy ideas and dreams to 5,000 people.
That's crazy. It's just like, I don't know. I'm thinking 40 rooms at the Wynn. Like, I just think of getting one room at the Wynn. I think it starts there probably, I'd say $500-600 a night. I can't imagine.
Yeah, and
40.
they had multiple suites. I mean, I could say that the hotel bill alone was over $1 million.
That's wild. Yeah, that's one thing I love about Las Vegas is what's normal here is just like to other places is just crazy. Like, like the restaurants we have on the Strip and the entertainment that's in such a consolidated area, it kind of kind of ruins some other nightlife. Like whenever I go to other cities, no, it's true. Whenever I go to other cities, you'll go to a restaurant or something and food takes a while or the service isn't that good and you have to remind yourself you're not in Las Vegas.
Yeah, we're very detail oriented here. Absolutely.
So let's talk about your company a little bit, the Kess Group. So you guys, how many employees do you have?
About a dozen.
You have about a dozen,
Mm-hmm.
and they range from doing the bookkeeping to just VIP hosts, or like what's kind of the couple different roles you have in your company?
Mostly it's just hosting. I mean, that's our bread and butter. So the way that I've structured the Kess Group is everyone is an independent contractor for the most part, and you eat what you kill. You bring in business, you get paid. If you don't, then you don't, because that's what our business is relying upon. It's not like a real estate where you have residual income and you book business, you get paid a commission. If you don't, you don't. So we have people from, most of our staff is here, but we have some other staff that's out of state that has relationships, that people that come out here, whether it's corporate groups or their friends, and they book it and they get paid.
I guess it's kind of like real estate in some essence, commission based.
Yes.
We don't do deals. We don't get paid either. They sitting here doing a podcast, and I'm thinking about leases I need to go write. Not at the moment, but afterwards. Yeah, it's crazy. That's a scary thing to get into. If you've never had a commission only job, it's definitely when it rains. Well, what's the expression? When it rains, it pours. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. Just deals bring deals, and like you said, referrals are a great system. So when you first started and moved here, then. Like you said you met one person. Like, did you grow your book of business based on referrals, or like why do you think you were able to grow to the point you were at?
No, I had, like I said, I was a corporate caterer when I had my restaurant. Did a lot of catering, so I had a lot of corporate clients and people that would come out to Vegas. So when I moved here, I leaned into those relationships back east. But then when I was living here, I was always going out and meeting people. And the beauty about Las Vegas, most people don't understand that we get over 50 million visitors per year. So every single week, there is new clientele. There are new people coming to town that want to go out, have fun, right? Whether it's a convention, whether it's a birthday, whether it's divorce party, bachelor, whatever it might be, there's people here constantly. So if you're out and you're accessible, you're going to meet people. And that's what I did. I was always going out, always meeting people. And I just used that work ethic to continually ask for business. I wasn't shy. If you need something, please let me know. If you have any friends coming to town, please have them reach out to me. I'll take care of them, whatever they want. And it wasn't about making money in the beginning. It was just about meeting people. So a lot of times you want to go to a restaurant. I'm not making any money, but if I can hook you up and take care of you, next time you come to Vegas or when you have a friend going, you're going to be like, oh, you know what? I met this guy, Manny. I was referred to this guy, Manny, and he hooked me up and he made me look good. And you got to call him. And that's how it happened. And you start with 1 and you get to 2 and 4 and 8 and it just multiplies. And it's not rocket science. And I say this all the time. As long as you treat people the way that you want to be treated, good things will happen. If you're trying to nickel and dime someone, if you're trying to get over on them, word will spread. If you're always doing the right thing by someone, that will also spread. So I've been very fortunate that I have never put myself in a position where I'm going to screw someone over or where I'm looking at the dollar in front of me. I've always said, you know what? Be smart, treat everyone the way that you want to be treated. And I grew this company doing that.
You hit on something that is incredibly important, is that kind of what goes around comes around. And even though Las Vegas has over 2 million people, in my industry also, in like commercial real estate and you being in hospitality, you get a bad reputation very quickly. Like this is a small town. If you kind of screw over one or two people, it happens. Like it can tarnish your reputation and essentially put you out of business very quickly. But you one of the things you were talking about was kind of the culture that you've bred, like taking care of your clients and that kind of thing. How do you kind of teach the people who work with you that kind of same? Is that something you like teach the people that work for you, or is that just?
Yeah, listen. Everyone that works with us, I talk to them and I try to get them on board with what has worked for me, because having one of the largest companies in Vegas, most people in hospitality, if they don't know me, they've heard of me or my company. And when we're very blessed because we are, I think, the second largest company now or third largest company in Vegas. So all these years, over a dozen years of doing it, like you said, reputation travels, especially in a small city like this one. So people that work with us, they always say, how did you get to where you are? What'd you do? And I tell them. And from that moment, it's what they want to do with it. Fortunately, I've had people over the years that I had to stop working with us because they didn't follow. Like I said, it's not rocket science. It's really being just true to yourself and treating others the way that you want to be treated. And some people don't grasp that. They look at someone and go, oh, I can make more money today. So let me try to push them to do this or that. And it's like, why?
Yeah, you might get a pop doing that in your income, but yeah, long term, you're just it's like I've seen that here in town where some agents will screw over. They kind of like bully a deal through. Not even really, I wouldn't say screw somebody, but they just like they bully deals through that probably aren't the best for that building or that client. And over time, people just want to quit working with them and they kind of get ostracized. Yeah, that's wild. I want to talk about how I met you. Was running for office. What made you want to run for state office?
So that was just when COVID had happened, and I was upset at many things, but the number one thing that bothered me was at the time, the government was giving out all this money to companies, right? All this PPP money. Well, independent contractors were not eligible.
Yep.
So 22% of Nevadans are independent contractors, real estate agents, hospitality, construction workers, in every industry. So you talk about a fifth of the workforce could not get any money. So I couldn't work, right? The casinos were closed. Everything was shut down. I have no income. I have no salary. All my staff, no salary. And yet, if I worked at the Wynn, I could have gotten money. And I was like, why does that make sense? Why does an employee at a casino carry more weight than an independent contractor? And then the thing that really threw me over the top was the Lakers. They got, I think it was televised, like $40 million in PPP money. And I'm like, hold on. This company that makes billions of dollars is getting free money, but small mom and pop business owners cannot feed their families or take care of their staff. And that's why I decided, I'm like, you know what? I'm not doing anything. I'm mad. I have a voice. Why not use it? So that's when I went down the rabbit hole of politics and tried to create change.
What was your first introduction into like campaigning? Like, did you already know somebody who was like a consultant or a campaign manager or something, or were you just figuring it out?
That's so funny. No one's asked me that. So my real estate agent at the time, she introduced me to, drum roll, Michelle Fiore.
Okay.
So I had a lunch meeting with Michelle Fiore, who at the time was a city councilwoman.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there for an hour asking her questions, talking to her. And she had this consultant there too. So it was me, my real estate agent, Michelle, and this consultant. And they were like, oh man, you'd be great. After the hour, you'd be great. I'm going to support you. Right? So I ended up hiring that consulting group and leaning on Michelle for a little bit of time. I quickly found out that Michelle Fiore and I did not align in a lot of our ideology, but that was the the factor that pushed me into it, because those two people that were experts were like, you would be great in it. This is exactly what Nevada needs. Please do it. And, fast forward 18 months later, she ends up running against me and basically getting me out of politics. But that's another story.
We don't need to get into the Michelle Fiore story right now. If you pay any attention to the news, she's dealing with some things right now. We can leave it at that.
Yeah, karma. I mean, it's just, like you said, treat people the way they should be treated, right?
It's crazy, the political world, and that's how we met. I ran for office in 2020, but I had a similar start to that. I had a meeting with Victoria Seaman. I was a related person. I didn't even know where you start, like where you hire a consultant, like campaign manager, raising money. Like it just seemed like a foreign thing. It's like starting a business, really. You just don't know what you don't know. But tell me a little bit about your race. I mean, I paid a lot of attention to it. I thought you would have been great. I contributed to your campaign, and
thank you very much.
I mean, it's a lot of work. But tell me like maybe a high point and a low point during the campaign. Something that was like a total surprise.
Two low points. One, I spent over $150,000 on my money. Two, for 18 months, this was a full-time job, right? I mean, most people that run for office don't have a job because that's their job and that's how they have a living. I had a company that I owned, and I had other things. I had real estate. I have other deals and things, and companies that I own, and yet I was spending a minimum of 8 hours a day, 6 days a week, campaigning. What does that entail? 100 phone calls a day, going to meetings every single day, putting on fundraisers, going to fundraisers, going to anything and everything possible. And I was running statewide, so it wasn't like local where I would just run around in Las Vegas. I went to events in the whole state, all 17 counties. I went up and down the state a total of 3 times. High point. I met some amazing people that are very, dedicated, that love our state, that really want to see our state excel. But the most interesting part was, you think that the real estate world is ugly, right? I think that hospitality is gruesome and ugly. It doesn't compare to politics. For 18 months, I was the poster boy of the Republican Party. Everyone loved me. Everyone's endorsing me. Everyone's supporting me. As soon as Michelle Fiore got out of the governor's race and got into my race, they all turned their back on me because they were scared of what she would do to them. And so what did that teach me? All these people are scared of their shadow. They're not honorable, 90%. And the worst part is, people are Democrats or Republicans. No, they just want to have a job. Politicians, 90%, just want to have a job, and they want their ego to shine. They don't want to help our state. And that goes for both sides. I mean, there are some good politicians, yes, but the majority, all they want to do is have a title and make money. And it's a shame because you look at the news and you say things like, oh, I like this person. I don't like that person. Oh, I'm whatever party, so the other party sucks. There are plenty of Republicans that I would never vote for. And there were very few Democrats that I was like, oh, you know what? You make sense here. Maybe some of your policies, no, but there is no one size fits all. It's very, very skewed by the party. And if you want to succeed, you got to follow the machine.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on just former candidates, lessons learned.
Yes.
No, but you're right. I don't want to get too just into the political thing here, but I realized that too. Like when I was running, you'd go to these meetup groups where it's like the Republicans of this area or this particular group, and I'm like, you guys have lost these races for the last 10 years, and new people come in, and you're like, you're treating me like a second-class citizen a little bit. And again, not everybody. There's some very good people in that world.
Absolutely.
But what I found too is there's a lot of people who don't have anything else going on. Like you lost, you went back to your company, you went back to your day job. It's just the same thing with me. Like I was like, okay, I've been in real estate here for a long time. I just went back to my job, which I like. I've got a great team, great company, and I found a lot of the people, that's all they have going for them. And if they don't have that, you're like taking it all away. You did stay on one thing though. You said you met a lot of really cool people. Were there any new relationships, like professionally? Like did running help you at all, maybe with recognition? Like the Kess Group or you particular?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
No. If anything, the Democrats don't call me anymore. But no, I met some really cool people. And like I said, not all people in politics stink. Like I got to spend a lot of time with the governor, who was the sheriff at the time, because we were campaigning on the trail. And, you're going to these small counties. You're waiting for events to start. You're talking. You're going to lunches. Really great guy. And again, you might not agree with everything that he does, but a very smart, somebody who cares. I got to meet the new sheriff, Sheriff McMahill. Really cool guy. I got to meet some really cool people. It's funny because I became friendly with the state treasurer, the person that I was going to run against, Zach Conine. Great guy, family guy, intelligent. So you talked about Secretary of State. I got to meet Cisco. You get to go into these rooms, and whether you're on the same side or the opposite side, you're still talking to people, right? It's like
that's how it should be.
100%. So I got to see what people I would actually be friendly with. Maybe not friends, but acquaintances, and I would lean on in life, and who I would avoid. And there are a lot of good people. Like you said, too, you go to these meetings, these organizations, most of those people, they volunteer. And I met so many volunteers that spent so much time, energy, money, running around trying to help people like you and I when we were running that no one talks about.
No.
So it's incredible. I met some really cool people. And after, Michelle beat me in the primary, I took 6 months and I didn't go near. I just wanted to unwind and get away. I went back 6 months later, went to a bunch of meetings. People were still like friendly and, oh my God, Manny, good to see you. How are you? So it's really cool to meet people that care.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there are just people who just genuinely believe in like their values, and they spend all their free time dedicated to that, and they don't get to hear the I guess they don't get they volunteer, and then after the election cycle, it's kind of over, and they don't get enough like gratitude.
Absolutely.
But yeah, running for office was definitely an experience, but it was fun. I mean, to watch your race was really was an event because we made
the state treasurer's race sexy.
Yeah, you had some unique kind of campaigning styles we can call, but no, you made a splash. I mean, people knew who you were when you were done doing it. You mentioned one thing, and I always encourage people this: you drove the state a couple times. Was there anything cool that you saw in the state that you weren't? I'm sorry. Was that the first time that you've ever driven through the state before you were campaigning?
It was.
Did you see anything stand out that was really cool to see as far as like you didn't know was Nevada?
It was a lot. I mean, I've only been to, at that point, I had only been to Las Vegas and to Reno.
Okay.
And Lake Tahoe. So going to all these small counties, seeing how beautiful our state was, we're like, oh yeah, you're a desert. But once you go you go up north, there's a lot to see, and it's really beautiful. And again, it's a lot of amazing, unique people. Everyone thinks that Southern Nevada is just where everything happens. Of course, we have 2.2 million out of the 3 million people live down here, and we have the Strip. There's a lot of business, a lot of industry when you go up to northern Las Vegas.
Yeah, mining.
Nevada, a lot. So, and it was incredible that during that time, again, because of COVID, a lot of Californians were moving to the state. A lot of them were moving to northern Nevada. They weren't moving down to southern Nevada. So it was cool to see how there was a lot going on around the whole state. It was really, really amazing to me because I had never done that before.
I'm always surprised how many people haven't driven outside of Las Vegas. I ride motorcycles and I love touring through Nevada when the weather turns like it is now in October. You'll drive through some of these towns and you're like, why is there a theater and this beautiful courthouse and an opera house? And you look at the population now, there's like 3,000 people. But then you look when I guess it'd be the late 1800s, there were like hundreds of thousands of people live there because of mining. So these structures obviously still exist. So you have these amazing main streets. Mm-hmm. So it's really, Nevada's a really cool state to explore. One of the funkiest towns I've ever been to is Austin, Nevada. So it's like northeast. I don't know if you did a road trip through there. But I just have to share the story. I was riding by and there were these guys sitting in they had a collapsible table sitting in front of a bar, like an old tavern. And I met this guy who was from former Yugoslavia, which isn't a country anymore. And he said he left communism and wanted to find the freest part in the United States. And he didn't have a liquor license, so he could only get donations. So he'd take a donation and give you a beer or whatever. And him and his friends just hung out in front of this bar. And it's like you don't discover that. So Nevada, I'd encourage anybody who's never driven Nevada to drive it. or road trip it into some capacity. So that's cool you had that
Oh
experience.
yeah, and most people were super friendly too. I mean, I campaigned, and I would go to like Lovelock, and I go to like these counties that had, like you said, 1,000 people, 2,000 people, and I'd go do an event at a park, and people would just, not knowing that there was something going on, would just walk up. Hey, what's going on? Oh, I'm running for office. Oh, cool. And they'd sit there and talk to you. Oh, you know what? You should go here and check this out. And if you go down the street and make a left, you'll find this. It's like, wow, thank you so much for taking the time to just stop and inquire what's happening, and then give me your advice about your area. It was really, really cool.
Yeah, the people of people in Nevada, I'm a big, I like living here, but you get to the rural part of the state, you've got Washoe County, which is Reno, Clark County, Las Vegas, and then like the rest of Nevada, and it's definitely a different universe. I wanted to talk about kind of your management style, because this is it's a commercial real estate topic, but I know you've ran a couple different businesses. Do you have other than treat people the way you want to be treated, which is an important one, but like management style? You've ran a restaurant, you've been in nightlife, you ran for office, you've had a pretty diverse career. Do you have any like secret sauce or like management tips that you use as far as like dealing with employees to making them feel maybe validated, but also realize like they have a job to do without being mean? I'm always curious. People have very different management styles. I mean, I've got clients who are like, they let their employees, they give them a lot of leeway. They're task based, and some who are super strict. And I think it kind of varies on the employee. But I'm always curious how people's management styles are. If you've got any,
I guess it depends on which employee you ask. But no, I mean, obviously my background is from New York. I'm Greek, so we had this very like work hard, don't make mistakes, everything's got to be perfect mentality. So as a kid, and like in my restaurant, I had a very different approach. It was very hands-on. It was everything's got to be done perfectly. But that doesn't work. No one's perfect, right? I'm not, you're not. That's just not reality. But as I got older and more mature, and coming into this industry, there's a lot more leeway in hospitality than there is in real estate, right? In being an attorney, in owning a restaurant. If I serve you cold food, you're never going to come back. But the reality is, now in hosting, it's finding out what a client wants and then making their experience better. So like I said, there's a lot of leeway. You don't have to be perfect. You're giving people options. They're choosing. So for example, somebody says, hey, I want to go to an Italian restaurant. Well, I'll give you 3 restaurants to choose from. You decide where you want to go. If that restaurant makes a mistake, it's not my fault. Of course, sometimes people like to blame you for making a recommendation, but the reality is now I am overseeing things and I'm creating experiences. But when it comes down to it, I tell you to go stay at the Wynn or the Cosmo or Resort World. I'm not those places. So how they handle you is up to them. So what I'll do now is I'll just tell my staff and our team how I did things, what worked for me, what didn't work for me, and offer suggestions. And I'd say, hey, when you need advice, reach out to me. But it's far less hands-on and far more of a drill sergeant than I was when I was younger. I mean, my sister works with me. You ask her, she'll tell you I'm probably the worst boss in the world. But then you ask most of my other employees, they love it because I don't bother them. You need something? Come to me. I'm not going to hound you. I'm not going to chase after you. I'm not going to bother you. Now, if we're doing something together, I'll follow up. Did this task get done? If we're working on a client, all right, did they get back to you? What are their concerns? Okay, is there a budgetary restriction? Is there this? Is there that? But at this point in my life, like you said, I've owned a lot of different companies. I've made many mistakes. I've failed. I've succeeded. And what I've learned is take a deep breath and just make sure you have a level head and you don't rush.
Yeah, that's a great piece of advice of not rushing. No, that's something. I actually was doing a podcast yesterday. Sometimes you just need to take a step back, and I was in the middle of it, and I was like, I'm not in the mindset to do this. I was at a funeral at noon, and then I was going to come to a podcast, and I was like, that was the best thing the guest actually said. He goes, why don't we just reschedule this and take a breath? And like sometimes you just need to take a minute. So that's I always like to take like sort of a takeaway or a nugget of information, and that's a great one, which is just when you're flustered or you don't know how to deal with something, taking a step back and taking a breath is a really big one. Are you guys doing anything with F1, Formula One?
We did a lot last year. And unfortunately, a lot of our clientele that came last year don't want to come back because it was just so expensive, and it was the first time, it's growing pains. So we have a few requests, but it's nowhere near what it was last year. And from what I'm hearing, the city is also not as busy as it was last year. So pricing has come down and it's realistic. So we have a few clients, but nothing crazy.
Dude, it was F1 to see the strip get transformed. I actually was living at Veer Tower, which was on the strip when they started the road construction, and I ended up moving because it just was a nightmare getting in and out of there during the construction. But I wasn't even planning on going to the races last year, and a friend of mine invited me like last minute. He had passes for the Wynn paddock, and it was wild to see like the strip being converted and all the fireworks show. And it was ironic that very next week they were in Abu Dhabi, or 2 weeks later, and I ended up going to. I was there by chance, and I went to that race, and it was really interesting to see a city race versus a track race. And I mean, Vegas, I think they did a pretty good job, like doing the transformation to make it just look like such a spectacle, but actually attending it was hectic, I would say. Did you go to the race?
I did. I had a client who had a suite in the paddock, and I think it was amazing, the transformation. And financially, from everything that I read, the city did far exceeded their expectations. Really? Of course, there were some people that didn't do well because of all the construction and all those closures affected some business owners. But overall, the state crushed it. I read a report that they had the most amount of lines of credit in their history, the biggest gambling weekend ever, and then that got surpassed with Super Bowl. But it was amazing to see. Much like you, I used to live in Veer, by the way, a long time ago. It was incredible to see how it took 6 months to transform the area around the strip. And I live near the strip now, so I was cursing F1 for a long time because of the construction.
Yeah.
But seeing it and the road work and how they managed to move all those people around, it's pretty impressive. When you close the strip down, I mean, you expect it to be a complete disaster. And I was really impressed with how the city came together and made it work. It wasn't easy, wasn't pretty, but for the first time in the first year, I think it was overall a success.
No, they did a good job, being able to walk around the strip the way they had. They weren't police officers, but people directing traffic, and not car traffic, but foot traffic, because there were so many people, and you had people stopping on the road trying to see through cracks to the fence because they didn't have tickets to actually view the race. Yes. It was kind of interesting. So sticking on the topic of a big event like F1, is there anything on the horizon that you're excited to see new to Las Vegas as far as an event or development as our city kind of grows still? I'd say it's we've grown in a different way after COVID. Or is there something you're excited to see happen?
I'm scared about the A's. I don't like the location. I thought it was terrible that they picked the Tropicana, because can you imagine having T-Mobile, the Sphere, MGM Garden Arena, and a baseball game on the same day? But I'm excited for an NBA team. I mean, everyone's been talking about it for years. It's going to happen in the next couple of years. That, I think, will be amazing, because the NBA just brings so much, not just notoriety and money, but people are huge basketball fans. And even when they do the summer league events here, or the exhibition, the preseason events, people fly in from all over the world to attend that. So I'm very excited to see that in the next probably 3 to 5 years. But right now, I was hoping to see a playoff Raiders team. I don't think that's going to happen this year, but the fact that we're now officially a sports mecca is pretty cool. Obviously, Golden Knights had a great, they won the title. The WNBA team, they did amazing. They won 2. Unfortunately, this past 2 weeks ago, they got knocked out and they didn't win. But it's really great to see sports thrive, because no one ever thought it would thrive. Oh, Las Vegas is small, it's transient, no one's going to come here. Well, we've proved the world wrong. And even F1, like you said, no one ever thought F1 was going to come here. And it did really well. And now it's a 10-year minimum contract. So it's really exciting to see how this small little strip in this small city is thriving and just continues to grow. And on your side too, construction, a lot of developments. You had places that the part of the strip, right? When for me, the strip ended past Mandalay Bay, right? Now there's so many developments going on. So it's exciting to see how the Strip is going to look in a few years with the Mirage now being gone, seeing what they're going to do with Hard Rock. I mean, the Strip is going to look very, very different in the next 3 to 5 years. So it's exciting to be here.
Yeah, there's no city, in my opinion, that is better suited to move people around and host big events here. I mean, just having the amount of people that can stay at one property, like even going to a convention. If there's a convention here in town that I'm attending, often I'll just get a hotel room on to stay there because I could, instead of driving back to my house, which I live in the outskirts of town now. And I'll go to a conference in like LA or something like that, and you have to stay at a hotel and take a shuttle and like walk. It's just annoying. And here you just Vegas does a really good job of doing it. But it is wild to think about the sports. Like, when did the Knights move? When was their inaugural season? Like 2000?
7 years ago.
7. So like within the 7 years, we have, the Raiders Stadium got built. The Knights won a Stanley Cup final. I was at that game. That was so cool to be in that arena when they won. The A's coming. I think an NBA team would be amazing. Obviously, there's the Aces. Yeah. I know 2 titles in a row. And what's cool about the Aces is the WNBA's always gotten some flack for not attending, but you go to the Aces games, like you'll see Mark Wahlberg goes to the games. Like they get some big names going to those games, and they actually are crowded. So it's cool to see.
And now Tom Brady invested in it, so it's
he did?
Well, yeah, he invested in the Aces and the Raiders, so it's pretty cool to see that there's celebrity and firepower helping to grow the brand and grow the league. So it's impressive. I
was, you hear rumors and things in the newspapers of new industries coming here, but I actually just did a deal with a company out of LA because they said they don't have that much work here and they want to open a location here and eventually move here totally. But they rent trailers for like celebrities. So like, they when they're shooting a movie or a commercial, they'll have like trailers for the celebrities to go hang out in. And I didn't realize the different calibers they have. He's like, yeah, we have ones where the extras get to go, where it's like a shared trailer. And then he's like, we have ones that are as nice as could possibly be. But yeah, he rented a building out here in a yard for that business, which I've never seen that kind of business here. So these sporting events and the potential movie studios that are coming here, I've seen new types of tenants and buyers come to Las Vegas that I haven't seen in my 20-year career. Well, almost 20 years. January will be 20 years of me doing real estate in town.
That's impressive. Congrats.
Oh my God. Well, it's funny. I got into my career because I was valeting at a country club. I was hired to do a valet job at a party when I was at UNLV, and I met some brokers, and one of them needed an assistant, and that's how I got into commercial real estate.
And here you are.
Yeah, right. I have a podcast and everything. So, couple wrap up questions here. Not who you want to win, but if you had to bet money, like this was a total gambling thing, who would you bet money on? We're about 2 weeks out from the election.
Trump.
You'd put your money on Trump.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I just think the momentum's with him right now.
Listen, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole, but the reality is, again, in my opinion, you're not supposed to love a presidential candidate, right? They're not supposed to be your friend. You're supposed to look for somebody who aligns with the majority of your values and who you think can do a great job. And for me, President Trump is never going to be my friend. I don't have to enjoy his tweets or enjoy what he says. I want a president who's going to help the country move forward and be better than it was before they came into office. And that's why, in my opinion, he's the better choice of the two.
We'll know in 2 weeks. Actually, I'm going to go vote today.
Nice.
Yeah, early voting. Go vote.
So smart.
I don't want to go deal with the election day stuff.
I might do that too, because today's actually a pretty good day for you. So that's a good idea.
Yeah, I got you. See, that's what happened. I got you out early. We're filming this in a morning session. How do you stay up to date on like all the events going on in Las Vegas? I always ask people in the business world, and their answers are always the Las Vegas Review-Journal or Wall Street Journal. But you have a whole different info set of things, knowing what celebrities are doing shows here, what shows aren't doing well. Like how do you stay up
Honestly,
to date on?
I don't. So I will say that for me, it's all customer based, right? So when a customer's telling me I'm coming to town, these are my dates, then I'll pay attention and see what's happening. But it's usually, I would say the majority of my business is like right now, this weekend, the Chiefs are in town. So I have a few clients coming in for the game. So I know that the Chiefs are playing at Allegiant. All right, what else is going on? So I'll just go online. I'll look, all right, does the Sphere have any concert, or are they just doing their show? Is my world revolves around nightclubs, pool parties. Of course, now the pools are closed. So it's all right. Well, who's DJing at what club? Is there a comedian in town? All right, who does Fountain Blue have it in their theater? Who does Resort World have? So I just go online and I look, but I don't do that every day. I do that when I have a client coming to town around their needs. For me, SEMA's big. I work with a lot of car companies. So I know what's going on that week because there's so many people in town. So I don't do it on a weekly basis or daily basis. I do it when I need to.
SEMA show is one of my favorites. I think
technology is incredible, right? With the cars every year and how further along they've gotten. I'm wild. Like, wait, my car is cool. And then you go next year, like, no, it's not cool anymore. Look at this new car. And
SEMA, and that's another show that I've been to SEMA show, I think every year for like the last 10 years. And like that's another good one. I mean, the way they handle crowds coming in and out and the outside, like they do all the car tricks out front and like it's, what are they, drifting and monster trucks. When they came out, was it the Kia Telluride, their SUV they came out with? They had an outside track where you would ride with them in a helmet and they'd actually jump them. I'm like,
no way.
I was like, why am I in a Telluride, a Kia Telluride, and they're jumping it? Well, they're trying to show a new side of their cars. And where else do you see that? Like, it's just.
I'll tell you like a quick 30-second thing. So this was years ago, back when the SLS had a hotel here. Before it became the Sahara. So I worked with a car company and they're a tire company. And they were like, hey man, we've been coming to see them every year. We want to do something just very unique. We want to do a private event that's very unique because we always go to a club. We always get the same people. It's always the same thing. And it's just boring. So the SLS had just opened up and I'm not Mr. Creative by any means, but I was like, okay, how about we go to one of these pools because they're closed. It's a big open space. And why don't we just put a couple of the cars, because the owner of this tire company had an amazing collection of cars, like amazing exotic cars. So I'm like, why don't you take a couple of your cars and let's just put them around the pool and do a cool event. It'll be indoor, outdoor, but it'll be something different. And he was like, okay. And then he got like his creative team. So we ended up doing this event where we took over the SLS pool. We had 2 cars suspended over like the pool, and well, not suspended. They had like these blocks, and they put them on there. It was this amazing production, and I was like, "Wait a minute, how did I come up with this idea?" And now it morphed. The long story short was, they spent not a lot of money because this pool was closed. So it wasn't like you went into a club and they were like, "Hey, man, it's a Friday night or Thursday. I need $500,000 or $1 million." It cost them a lot less, and they had one of the most unique photographable moments of the whole week. And the guy was like, wow. Point of the story, take risks and just try to be creative, right? I mean, it was just like, why don't we do this? Because it'll be something different. And it ended up being this ridiculously cool event that people still talk about it because it was something that no one had ever done before. So it's just amazing how when you just kind of think outside the box and you try to really care about something, the magic happens, as they say, you know?
That's a key point there. If you don't get excited about what you're doing, you just don't have the energy to come to that creativeness. But I'm having a tough time imagining this. Leave it to Las Vegas to put a car in a pool. Was it a hotel? It was a hotel pool?
Yeah, the SLS, which is now the Sahara.
Yeah. They went back to Sahara. That's crazy. So you guys put cars in their pool. Where else can you do that? Las Vegas.
Insane. Yeah, seriously. It was amazing.
I love it. That's a cool story. So what is something, if somebody wanted to get into hosting or into events, what is a piece of advice that you would give somebody new trying to break into this business, or something you wish you would have known when you first started?
Well, the reality is, again, we're a commission-based, we're a book of business-based business, just like you. So I would say for people that are just starting out, younger people, I would go work in a hospitality group that works in the casino, like a TAO Group or the Wynn or Resorts World, because when you have those big companies behind you, they're giving you all the marketing tools, all the assets, and you're representing a big company. So that's a great way to start and get your book of business. You know, when you work for the Wynn, for example, they give you a hotel. So your job is to go own that hotel. So you're meeting all the casino hosts, all the valets, you're meeting the concierge people. So you're getting referrals.
Wow.
I don't have that luxury. I have to bring in business myself. So for people that are wanting to start in this business now, new, go work for a company, a couple of years, learn, grow, and obviously, if you can, ascend in the ranks If not, if you want to do something else after you've gotten your book of business, then venture on and try your own thing. So, I mean, people always tell me about the grass always greener. In hindsight, if I had not gone on my own, I'd probably be the vice president or the president of Tag Group now, because I worked for a company which was AMG. It became Hakkasan Group. They ended up getting bought out by Tag Group. Who knows where I could have been. I'm lucky because I had the clientele and the business to be able to do what I do. And I'm very blessed because I can work from home. I can work from anywhere, right? All you need is a cell phone and a laptop and internet service. But it's not, what I do is not easy. If you don't have the book of business, you're not making money. If you're not making money, how are you surviving? So I've diversified. I mean, I own a bunch of real estate. I have other investments. I'm in restaurants now. So I'm very grateful that I worked so hard when I was younger and I was smart with my money, and now I have a lot of passive income. But you can't just do that. 25-year-old kid can't just come to Vegas, start a hosting company, and make money. You have no business. You need to work within the confines of a big organization, grow, learn from that company. That's the one thing I can say. Like, those companies, they have manuals, they have every tool you possibly can imagine or need to succeed. All you got to do is put in the work.
So don't reinvent the wheel. Go get it. Be around the proximity and get
100%. Yeah.
That's the thing in real estate. I say the same thing. If you're a new agent, don't try to go figure it out on your own. Go work on a team for a couple of years, and go from there. Do you see the one of the hot topics right now is AI, like ChatGPT and all these ones? Has that affected the nightlife industry at all? That you've seen? I don't know how it would, but I'm curious if you've seen anything.
I am not like the most tech savvy person, but I do know that now a lot of these companies, the hotels and a lot of these big companies, they're able to reach a lot more people now because everything is digital marketing, right? Everything is getting phone numbers and emails, and they can now reach out to people with a click of a button. I don't do that. I'm still old school, and I'm still calling or texting people individually. But a lot of companies now, once they have their list, their mailing list or their phone list, they can simply use AI, click a button, and reach out to tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. So I'm sure it's becoming more and more prominent for them, but for me, I'm still old school.
I'm kind of the same way. I'm stuck in my ways.
I don't even use Siri. I've never used Siri on my phone, so it's just a thing for
don't.
Me. Yeah.
There's one question I wanted to ask you, and this was related to, like the first time I met you when you were doing your political fundraiser. Like, you had a handful of like NFL guys there, and then when you're on, we're connected on Instagram. It seems like every other Sunday you're down on the field with some player. Like, if those relationships started, those guys were clients, and I'm assuming a lot of them have turned into friends. I know you had a pretty good athlete backing when you ran for office, and I just like to say, like, my friends who backed me while I was running for office, that's a whole nother level of loyalty. When you call your friends and are like, I'm running for office, can I have some money to help fundraise? Do you have some sort of trick to like managing expectations of people who have big egos? Like, I come across that with clients, real estate clients. They're set they're like, this is how it should be, and I'm like, well, that's not how we do things here. Your building might not be wired that way. Managing expectations of people who have been successful or maybe have egos is sometimes tricky. Do you have?
I don't want to give all the secret sauce away, but I will tell you, when it comes to celebrities and athletes, what I have learned in my experience is just be real. They are surrounded by friends, family, staff that just yes them to death. So I am not a yes man. I tell you things the way that they are, and you might not like it, but when you talk to me or deal with me, you're going to get the truth. And I've lost clients because of that, and I've had clients stolen because other people BS them, manipulated conversations. But 9 out of 10, if you're real with them, they know. And so in the moment, they might get mad because of their ego and they're not used to it, but they will always revert back. I mean, a lot of my bigger name athlete clients that are friends of mine, we're very honest with each other. And they know that if they ask me a question, they're going to get the truth. So that's what has worked for me. I'm not saying go be rude or no, of course you have to be conscious and speak in a certain manner, but money doesn't motivate me. So I'm not going to BS someone to gain them as a client or to gain them as a friend. If I have to BS you for you to be my friend, I don't need you in my life. And that's the reality. I mean, I've had the biggest stars in the world as clients. I've lost some of them because of A, B, or C reason. Do I regret it? Not one bit. I don't regret it because I've always been true to myself. So, I tell this to my friends. I wake up in the morning, I look in the mirror, and I'm proud of what I see. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Have I made mistakes? More than most. But I have never gone out of my way to screw someone over. I've never gone out of my way to cheat someone. Nothing is perfect, right? I might say something to you that might end up being wrong. But if I don't maliciously try to hurt you or get over on you, I'm proud of who I am.
I love that. Just being real with people, and even if it's bad news, to share it with them. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, I have one client specifically that I just did not like the way he was working with me. He'd been a client for like 8 or 9 years. We've done a handful of deals together, and I finally had enough. I was like, dude, the way you talk and the way you act, we're not meshing. Not that it was bad. It was just, it's not how I work. I'm a little more low key, and so we parted ways. And it was funny, he called me like 2 years later and was like, hey, there's this project I want to work on. And we were able to have that conversation where I was like, hey, but if we go down this road, we kind of need to mesh how we work. And it was, we actually sold three pieces of property from this. But the point that or last year, the point I'm making is like what you said, you might lose them right away, but they'll come back around potentially with kind of a reality check. So that's good. Yeah, don't be a yes man all the time, because that's how you kind of lose respect, or you can, I guess, lost respect and end up doing things you're not comfortable doing. Can you share what restaurants you're part of? You said you're part of a couple of restaurants.
Yeah, I'm an investor. I own a small piece of a restaurant called Third Base in LA.
Oh, cool.
And I'm also an investor in a place called Cork and Batter. It's in Inglewood. It's right next door to Intuit Dome, where the Clippers play.
Okay.
And actually, we're expanding. We're opening up 2 more Cork and Batters in the next 6 months. So no more operating for me. It's more just investing. I love getting quarterly distributions or biannually, depending on the company. So it's, I cut a check and then I make some money. It's passive. It's great. I mean, it's nice to have something that you can say is yours whenever you're traveling to that city. I'm working on a few projects here too that are hopefully be done in the next 3 to 6 months. But yeah, at this point in my life, I'm all about passive income and working smarter, not harder. I did a lot of the heavy lifting, and I'm in a very good place, thank God. I'm not wealthy by any means, but I think I'm smart with my money, and I know how to maximize and stretch my dollar. I'm one of those guys that if I like something, I'll buy it, but I don't need to buy something because somebody else likes it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and in your business, that's probably tough to do. You probably get a couple hotshot young VIP hosts or whatever that come in, make some money, and they're buying all the flashy stuff instead of being smart with their money. Do you see that a lot? Hosts come in and just...
Yes. It's in hospitality. I mean, whether it's hosts or servers or managers or GMs, like the beauty of Las Vegas is that there's a lot of wealth coming all the time, right? The downside of that is because we are in hospitality and we see that, we think that A, we deserve that, or A, we can have that. Just because I'm hosting a customer who can go spend 10 or 20 grand at a nightclub or $5,000 at a restaurant, it doesn't mean that I'm going to go to a restaurant and spend $5 grand. Can I afford to do that? Yes, but why? But you see that over and over again, and I love to say, like, you talk about hosts, and it could be guys or girls. They'll see all these amazing cars, right? People come and rent Lambos and Ferraris. Next thing you know, they're going and they're buying or leasing an Audi or a Mercedes that's way above their means. So they're making great money, but if you're paying for this amazing apartment and this amazing car, and the month you've got no money, then you know what? You're not smart. You're just trying to, what's that saying? Keep up with the Joneses?
Yeah.
I don't believe in that. Everything that I'm wearing, I've been given for free. I'm not going to go out there and sit there and spend $200 on a t-shirt and $500 on a pair of shoes. Now, have I done that? Yes. If I like a pair of shoes, I'll go and I'll buy it. But I'll do that for me. I won't do that because it's stylish or it's because somebody else is going to think that, it's cool. I do things for me. And that's, maybe it's right, maybe it's wrong. That's just how I live my life. So I'm not judgmental. People can do whatever they want. But I think living in Las Vegas, it's very easy to want to live outside your means because you're surrounded by so much excess.
Oh, the flashiness. That's one thing I just like to hammer home all the time with new real estate agents. But I appreciate you saying that. is be smart with your money early on. I mean, I made that mistake when I was like 21. I was just starting to make a little bit of money. I went and bought an Audi. You mentioned an Audi. I went and bought a Ducati and a house all at the same time. And then the recession hit, and I was like, oh God. And that was it's advice. I don't care if you're a VIP host or a real estate agent. When you're young and you're starting to make some money, you can totally change the trajectory of your income and your life if you live below your means and really realize that the real flex is being financially independent and not. I mean, maybe a gold watch. I don't know, but I like nice watches, but it's just unfortunate. You see people, they go get themselves in a bunch of debt, and then when they don't have a good month, it turns their world upside down.
It's funny. This is a real estate show, so I'm invested in a lot of real estate. Right, one of my good friends, his family, they've been in real estate for 40 years, primarily in California, and they have this massive portfolio. The company's called Coaches Capital. So they're developers, they're managers, they do all this stuff. So years ago, I was like, hey man, I'd love to get involved. I don't have a lot of money, but I want to get involved. So finally, him and his father let me get involved, and I cut a small check. It was 20 grand. It's not a lot of money, right? But I took 20 grand and I invested in this building that they were buying. And I make 6% a year minimum pref, right? So you can make more. You know how it goes if they refinance. So I started with 20 grand. It's not a lot of money. They make me rich. And you know what 6% of 20 grand is? It's not a lot of money. But it was protecting that money. Now that 20 grand was out of my hands, I can't spend it. It's not going anywhere, right? Real estate historically grows.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm making interest. And it was more than I make in the bank. In the bank, you're making 1% if you're lucky, 0.5%. So I started doing that. And then I told my friends, hey, man, guys, put together some money, 5 grand here, 10 grand here, and let's get in the next deal. None of my friends that were in hospitality wanted to do it. And I'm like, you telling me you can't put together $5,000? But I look at your belt, and you've got a $1,000 belt, and I look at your wrist, and you have an expensive watch, and you've got a nice car. And they didn't do it. Fast forward now, I've been doing this for 5-6 years. I'm in 15 buildings. I'm a very small, minute owner of close to 200 doors. And every quarter, I'm getting 15 ACHs. Now I'm like, wait, again, it's not making me rich, but I'm like, wow, it's nice. And those same people, I'm like, hey, remember when you didn't want to invest and when I told you, and this is safe money? Everybody wants a home run. Nobody wants the singles and the doubles. Well, I'm making tens of thousands of dollars a year passively without doing a thing. And it's because I was smart to save up some money, start small, and get bigger, bigger, bigger. Yes, now at this point, I have mid-6 figures with this company. So that money's locked up, right? I can't touch it. I can't spend it. But every year, 6% minimum, it's like, oh, okay. And on top of that, whenever every couple of years they refinance, you know the game. So now you're getting a big check every couple of years. So it's incredible to see how I want to say take a risk, but if you educate yourself and you take the time to learn other trades and you diversify, your success rate goes up exponentially. But if you're just trying to be cool for other people and to post stuff, I don't post about my buildings. I don't post about my restaurants once in a while because obviously we're trying to market them and help them grow. But you will rarely see me. I don't post my cars, or I don't even post when I'm on a trip now. When I was working and going on trips with clients, I was always posting. I wanted to get more business, right? If I'm in Miami on a yacht with a client, hey, you want to book a yacht in Miami? Call Manny. So yeah, I was posting it. When I was doing my events, I'm posting it. But now in my private life, you'll never see what I'm doing. I'm not even wearing a watch. I own several watches. I rarely wear them because I do that for me. If I want to go to a dinner with my girl, or if I'm going to like some formal event, I might throw on one of my watches. But I'm not doing it just for clout or to be cool. I bought that watch because I really loved it. Like you said, you like watches. You didn't buy it because like, oh, let me post it on Instagram.
No, I've never actually done that. So the minute I love this topic just because when I was young, I did it. I was just, you're a young guy and you think you're gonna, be the next whatever Donald Trump or something. But as my as my career has gone on, I've realized like the guys or people, women, and this is the same. The biggest flex is like, they're driving a Ford F-150, but they have an airplane, or like they're just super low key. They don't dress flashy. One guy, he told me this, is actually one of my bigger clients. He told me, he goes, if you're flashy and you're successful, he goes, that's an easy way to be a target for a lawsuit. He goes, that's why I want to be low key. I was like, that's interesting. But what you're talking about, investing in real estate, it's ironic that you brought up the investing part of this, and this is my real estate show, is you don't need to have $1 million to invest in a building. There are ways of doing it where you buy a rental house, maybe you live in it for 2 years and you buy it. I mean, I think there's not SBA, FHA loans, the first time home owner stuff where people go, they buy it, they live in that house for 2 years, and then they can go rent it out. As little as 3% down. And if you're in the real estate sector as well, they do these things, syndication, which it sounds like you're part of.
Yep,
We do them. I'm part of a handful of those too, because it's a great way to do it. Somebody puts a deal together and we call it passing the hat around. People throw in $500, they throw in half of it, but it makes it fun because you're making money with your friends. Yep. And over time, those appreciate and you get those ACHs, even if it's a couple $100. That who cares? I look at it as it's paying for your cell phone bill. I have one I did a number of years ago where I get a couple $100, and the way I look at it, that's my cell phone investment. My cell phone's paid for the rest of my life just because of that one investment. Is there a real estate? Is there like a project that you've invested that you're just like excited about? Like, do you guys own any of the buildings that your restaurants are in?
No, unfortunately, no, we didn't, because the restaurant that we did at Intuit is inside of a hotel, so the hotel owns it, but we have a sweetheart lease. But no, we don't. Like I said, most of my stuff is just passive. It comes to me. I'm lucky. This company that I'm investing in, it's a syndication. They have $1.2 billion, $1.4 billion under management.
Oh, that's a sizable company.
Yeah, so they do all the work in house. I get an email. All right, Manny, we're going to buy this 30 unit. We're going to buy this whatever unit. This is the price. They do all the work, and you just cut a check.
Yeah.
So I'm very lucky. And like you said, strength in numbers, right? So I can't do that. I can't go buy that $5, $8, $12 million building on my own. But if me and 10 of my friends each put in 10 or 20 grand, now we're going in there, we're putting in a couple $100,000. So we have a nice piece of that deal. And that was, like you said, I would love to do more of that with my friends or my family, because you're growing together and you're having fun.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, I've been to some of the stuff and I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm an investor in this. And again, I might have 0.25%, right? If I put $20,000 in a building that's worth $4 million, I don't have much, but I don't care.
Yeah. I'm
making money every quarter. And when we sell that building, I'm going to get a really nice, huge return and a multiple. So, I'm excited because I just recently got into another syndicate with a buddy of mine that I went to college with. So I went to the Naval Academy. So one of my classmates, who's now retired, him and two other USNA ex-grads started a real estate company in San Diego. And I got involved. He reached out to me. He found me on Facebook. He's like, hey, man, I've been following you and I love what you've done. We're doing this deal. Do you want to get involved? And I'm like, send it to me. And I looked at it. I'm like, oh, it's great. And I literally, October? I think I got in it in like June. So I'm excited because someone that I haven't seen in 20 years since my college days reached out to me randomly, and now we're doing a deal together.
Love it.
And it's so cool because I talked to a couple other guys. I try to go to the Army-Navy game every year. So I talked to a couple other guys. I'm like, yo, let's get together in December. I want to talk to you about what this guy's doing because it's great and we can all get involved. Again, $5,000, $10,000, $50,000, it doesn't matter. It's just, how cool would it be if your classmates from college from 20 years ago, now you're doing real estate deals together? That's what excites me.
Well, not only that, but like you said, it's making money with friends, but it also gets your brain to click over. Instead of like, maybe you have some success, whether you're a real estate agent or a host, where it's like, oh, I can go afford to buy these, whatever, a Louis Vuitton belt. You're like, wait a minute, if I don't go spend $1,000 here, I can save that and put it on a next, syndication deal. And you realize that, okay, that $1,000, I'm just making the math easy. You're like, if I invest that in something that might be getting me 6%, you're getting $60 a year on that. And it flips a switch. And I see this a lot at people in my office or younger agents where they realize I have the opportunity to invest in this stuff, where their spending habits change. Like you said, you're a lot more low key now. So that's really cool to see that you're doing that.
It's great because you know what? For me, it's not the $60 that I care about. It's the fact that $1,000 is mine. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't spend it. And then, the one thing that I wish people learned about in school is compounding interest.
Yeah.
That's something that most people that I know have never heard about. And I'm sitting there going like, man, if you learned that in high school or in college, maybe not college because some people don't go to college, in high school, if they just taught you about compounding interest, our youth and people in their 20s and 30s can really plan for their future.
Yeah.
And that's one thing where for me, I learned that in my early 30s. So now I'm like, man, if I learned that when I was 25 and making all that money before the '08 collapse, I would be a multi-millionaire, because what I did back then was buy property, put down 20, 30% to minimize my mortgage. And then the real estate collapse happened. I'm like, oh my God, I just lost everything. Had I done what I'm doing now, I'd be fine.
There's I don't know if you know who Dave Ramsey is, but he's this radio show host. He talks about financial things, but he uses this example often where if you put, I think it was $10,000 in a mutual fund 25 years ago, it's worth like $2.1 million now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a whole show on the education system where they teach you periodic table of elements, but not how a checking account works. It drives me nuts. No, it's just sad. You get people that are out doing high interest car loans and stuff, and they don't realize how much that.
Credit card debt.
Oh, I think the average household credit card debt's like $24,000 or something right now.
Yeah, it's disgusting because people don't know.
Yeah, that's I literally I need to do a show on that. But like you said, that compounding interest is a big deal. So like if you're listening to the show, if there's one thing you get out is save your money and find some non-sexy investments, because over time those add up in a fast way. So I'm just gonna wrap up here. I do want to ask you one question. Is there a book that you would recommend somebody read who is new to the business world?
Well, I will tell you a book that I read years ago that changed my life, and I would just tell everyone to read it. The author is called Kurt Blackson, and it's called You Are the One. It is an amazing book about empowering ourselves. I don't care what industry you are, what you do for a living, who you are, what you are, celebrity, regular person, doesn't matter. We need to love ourselves. We need to treat ourselves with respect and humility, and that's when everything else in our world manifests, whether you believe in manifestation or you don't. But the happier we are as people ourselves, then we exude that and we become more successful in life, whether it's in relationships, whether it's in business, whether it's in careers, sport, it doesn't matter. So that was a book that I read that changed my life. And now my girlfriend is a big fan of Eckhart Tolle. So we're getting into the power of now and some other stuff that he's written. So he's somebody that's extremely brilliant, that I would recommend people read. Anything from Eckhart Tolle is great. But yes, You Are the One, Kurt Blackson, highly suggest it. I mean, and it's $10 on Amazon, $15. It's not like you're spending a ton of money on it, but it's really an incredible read.
Those like publications or podcasts on mindset and kind of how you view yourself and getting rid of like limiting beliefs. That's something. I actually went to a Tony Robbins event like 2018. And I realized like, oh, you put these limiting kind of beliefs in your system, it affects every aspect of your life. So this is a good, I want to read this one.
Yeah,
book.
Please do.
You Are the One.
Yeah. And I would love to hear your feedback, but yeah, like I said, I mean, the reality is when we're younger, depending on how we're raised and where we are in our lives, we miss so many basic rules, right? I mean, for me, like I said, I came from a Greek background in New York. It was work hard and buy real estate, buy a home. That's what success is. I was like, no, success is diversifying, compounding interest, not putting all your eggs in one home, like you said. So, but that's just what I was taught. And I'm not saying that what I was taught was wrong. It was just probably an outdated mentality, because maybe 30 years ago or 40 years ago, that was, what you did. But now people make money in so many different ways, right? I mean,
Come on. It's wild.
I met these kids that are TikTokers, and they're making millions of dollars a year just
Crazy.
TikToking. And I was like, wow, I can't do that. I don't have the patience to sit there and be public all day, every day. But man, that's amazing how you're so young and you're so successful. But with that same breath, that same kid was like, yeah, I got 2 Lambos, I got a Ferrari, I got, 10 watches. So I'm sitting there going like, so you're making $1 million or $2 million a year, but it's all going into things that are going to have no value. And I can't tell him this because he's not my friend. I'm thinking, I really hope that this individual has a financial advisor to put some of that money away, because that could be gone tomorrow, right? And what's left? You made all this money and it came in this way, but if it all goes out that way, then what have you done?
You've got some stories, hopefully.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, they, that's one thing you mentioned is there are more entrepreneurial opportunities today than I think ever in the history of history. I mean, the internet, like you said, people making millions of dollars on TikTok, but they have these TikTok dancers and stuff that make money, but people just share their ideas. I love the internet now because you can create a course on like virtually anything. You could probably create a course on, this is how you become a successful VIP host. I mean, I could do one on real estate schools. Like it's not your typical like institutional like education systems anymore. It's really, I love seeing that on technology and people taking advantage of that. There are these 2 young women I rented a warehouse space to a couple of years ago. They sell this like, it's hard to explain, but it's like a Play-Doh jewelry. And when they told me the idea on the phone before we toured the building, I'm like, there's no way they make money on this. There were 2 high school girls, I guess at the time, that were graduating. Their parents had to sign the lease. They were making like $250,000 a year selling this, and netting. They were netting that, and they needed a warehouse space for their business license because they needed a commercial mixer, and they couldn't do it from their house anymore. It's wild. And how else could you do that? It's because their social media, they were able to sell that and get a following based on that. Product, which is you could never do because you used to have to be in a magazine or mass publications. But Manny, thank you so much for being here with me today. If someone wants to get a hold of you, what's the best way to check out your company or social media?
www.thekessgroup.com. That's the easiest way.
And all the contact information's on there.
It's all there. Yeah. I mean, and then like I said, Cork and Batter, Third Base are just some restaurants that I'm invested in. There's Instagram pages, there's online. So that's really easy to find. But yeah, those are the easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect. And I think that wraps it up.
Awesome.